everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood podcast. And today I'm here with the amazing Jean Marie Keevins. Did I pronounce the last name right? I forgot to check.
You did.
Okay, yep. Good, awesome. And we're going to be having a really interesting conversation today about telling a better story, or what's your new narrative, just another way of looking at how do we position ourselves and what are the stories that we tell about who we are and where we're coming from and going to and so forth. So I'm excited about that because I love telling people to tell a better story. So welcome, and tell us a little bit about where are you right now, and then tell us, I will read your bio, but tell us something that people wouldn't guess from hearing your bio or looking at your website.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And also thanks for asking for where I am, because this light is making me crazy. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York, but I'm currently in Atlanta, performing and producing in a show at
cool.
at the Center for Puppetry Arts, which is really exciting. It's a very prestigious theater center. So we're excited to be there. And I forgot the rest of the questions.
What's the show that you're producing and performing?
Thanks for asking. It's called Annika's Elephants. It's a beautiful story about a girl who becomes orphaned and becomes part of this herd. And the whole point of the story is to talk about how we can find family anywhere. So talk about creating new narratives.
Right.
This story does it unrelentlessly. And when we're done here, we're coming to Broadway in March. So
so congratulations. That's awesome. So you're living down in Atlanta right now?
Just for 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, let me give you the official bio here for Jean Marie, and then we'll launch into why you do what you do. So Jean Marie Keevins is an Emmy-nominated award-winning creative executive who's balanced the majority of her career life between the entertainment world and working with C-suite executives in the financial world. First day with the new mouth. As a multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate professional, I love that. She's known for looking at challenges from a different perspective and giving it to you straight. My favorite way of getting it. All right, so I love the multi-hyphenate because that just means that you're multi-passionate and multi-talented and so forth. So I love that, because the interest is in the hyphen. It's really what lies in between. So tell us your why. Why do you do the work you do?
So I have a long history in storytelling, and it is really important to me that people tell a better story. Like, we have this habit, particularly in North America, of finding the negative. We feel like that's what we should do, and that's what we should say. But in fact, we're lowering the bar for everybody when we do that, right? And we're turning down the light on everyone around us when we do that. So it's really important to me that we shine a brighter light so that we can get more honest and we can raise the bar for everyone. And I feel like I, as an introvert, am somebody who has always had to step up front for whatever reason. And so shining that light and giving myself permission has been a huge, terrifying, courageous act. And I realized what it has done for others. And so it's important to me to continue to serve in that way and teach people how to do it for themselves.
I love that. And I really, what I think is kind of cool about that is that it is scary for us to step into the spotlight, but even more so for introverts, for people who that's not their happy place. But a huge number of professional speakers, like about 76%, and professional entertainers are introverts. So it is possible to, I won't say overcome that, but to be front and center as an introvert. So how, just as a quick aside, how do you manage that, or how did you kind of overcome the shyness or the resistance or whatever?
Yeah, it's interesting. You asked, I kind of like did a spoiler alert there. You asked me to say something that people wouldn't expect from me, and that would be my thing, right? People assume that I'm an extrovert because I can walk into a room and take command and go. But I had to learn how to do that. I grew up in constant crisis situations, and I had a choice, right? Fold or grow. And I come from a very growth-minded family.
Mhm.
And as a woman, I come from a very feminist family. I didn't want to be the person that receded, and I didn't want to be the person that was told where to sit and what to think and what to do. Like, I wasn't valued. And so to be seen and to be heard, I had to learn to speak up. And I've never been afraid, to be honest, I've never been afraid to speak up for others,
Mhm.
but I am for myself. And introverts, as you just mentioned, it's not uncommon for them to be able to do this. The difference is that we're exhausted after.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
exhausted. We don't take energy from being around a lot of people and taking the lead. We are completely depleted at the end of it, but it doesn't mean that there isn't joy there.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, I'm an introvert by nature and an extrovert by training, and people are often surprised by that because I'm so upfront and so forth. The training has kicks in and takes over, but I do have to really monitor and make sure that I have downtime, time alone, that I really go in for a while after
Yes.
being out a bunch. So you're an entertainer by nature. Tell us just a little bit about what kind of entertaining you do.
So my background is in puppetry for both adults and children. So I have done the whole Muppet thing, and I worked on a show called Helpsters, which is a phenomenal show, by the way, from Apple TV Plus and Sesame Workshop. So I have done children's stuff, but my primary passion is talking to adults using nonverbal communication and using these different storytelling techniques. The show we're doing right now, Annika's Elephants, speaks to adults and children equally. And to me, that's kind of the power of puppetry, right? We kind of just, the word just went right out of my head, but we suspend belief, right?
Right.
We all agree that this is the world that we're going to live in. And in doing that and making that common agreement, we're able to do literally anything, right? It makes the impossible possible. And so that's what I love about puppetry. That's what my degree is in, believe it or not, from the University of Connecticut. And yeah, I've spent a lot of my life doing that, but I do bounce into other things because the skills are very transferable.
Mhm.
They're
Well,
very,
and talk a little bit about, because I think there's a lot of people who have creative ventures or are artistic in some way, but don't see how to tie that into perhaps corporate or how to make it monetizable. So how
Mhm.
did you turn it into a business? How did you turn, aside from working in the entertainment field, how did you cross over, if you will?
Yeah, there's a couple ways. So in coaching, to me, it's the same as producing and it's the same as directing. It's all the same. You're in a space looking for the best possible outcome, asking questions and being present to any possibility.
Mm,
And then at some point you have to decide, right? But you listen to others, and it, for me, what I love about it is that I don't want to say it's completely egoless, but it is mostly egoless, right? You're focused on the outcome and not what you specifically want. And so that is very transferable to business. Once a leader has decided where they're going, it's how they're going to get there.
mhm,
And a piece of that that's super transferable is the listening to the needs of the group.
mm,
Forgive me, actors, but there is no one more needy than actors, right? Dancers, musical theater, forget it, right? Like opera, all of those genres, there's a lot of hand-holding and coddling and listening that needs to happen from the leader. And that's not any different in hedge funds or corporate. And if more people listened to their team
mm,
and led with the styles at which their teams needed to be led, they would get to the outcome faster and they may even find a better outcome. So
mm.
I think it's very, very transferable. I know it is. And it's the listening.
Mm. That's awesome. And so, again, just out of curiosity, how did you figure out how to position it for corporate? Because I assume that you don't lead with puppets, right? That you don't
I
say
wish I
"Listen,"
did.
and work with you with puppets.
Mm.
So how did you position it? Did you position it as team building and learning how to be a more effective leader?
Yeah, there's a couple things that happened there that were, I admittedly have a seemingly bizarre path, right? And all along my journey in the arts, I've always balanced my life in the arts with a straight job. right? I've always gone into an office where people are required to be calm and right, bring it down a little. And that really served my introvert, right? Of like all day being with wild and then coming to this place where they just were doing what they do.
Yeah.
So I have always kind of bounced back and forth just to serve my own calm. But along the way, I've learned a ton about the way that people speak in businesses, the various languages that are spoken. Like there's a big joke that I speak corporate, I speak hedge fund, and I speak Disney. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be funny, but it's true. There are three different languages that are all saying the same thing.
Mhm.
Right. So what gets tasty and fun for other people is that there's nothing weird that you can say to me.
Mhm.
Try
Right.
it. Right.
Right.
You know, like I know where I spend
Yeah.
half my time. Like it's not normal. It is to me.
Yeah.
So it allows people to come to me with thoughts that they are afraid to put on the table
Mhm.
and concerns about themselves
Mhm.
that I think you're not necessarily encouraged to say in a corporate atmosphere.
Yes.
Um, yeah, for me, you know, you could say anything, and I'm going to say, right, sure, okay, so that's how you feel, right? That person feels like a penguin,
Mhm.
right? So you feel free to say what you feel. I promise it's not going to be strange. And then we can figure out what does that mean in your space. And that has always become a secret sauce wherever I land.
Right.
Right. People like gravitate towards my desk or executives will say, like, you know, no, I want her over here. And
Mhm.
you'll hear like, I'm gonna need puppet check. I'm like, you're gonna need to not use that language.
Yeah.
And then yes, let's do it, you know.
Right.
But but that's a real thing that happens consistently.
So I hear a number of things in there. And so I
Mhm.
want to just kind of translate this for any of the creatives that are listening, because I think
Mhm.
sometimes they have a real hard time bridging it, or perhaps
Mm,
translate, but reinforce the brilliant stuff you just said, which was one, you understand the worlds that you are in and you bridge and you experience and work within them. So you're not just trying to enter a world that you have no grounding in. Two, you really listen for the language they use and adapt to the language. I think that's a big mistake for in 99% of entrepreneurs marketing is they don't use the language of their market. They use their language, or what they think the language is, versus really immersing and getting that there is a whole different way to communicate that will land better with
yeah.
that prospect. So really understanding the language that they speak, because that will give you access to the world they live in. And then the third thing I heard you say is that you really focus on creating how to transfer skills from one to the other. What's the commonalities? What are some of the things that you do in each situation that you can bring to this new environment? And then the fourth one was that you really create a safe space and a listening so that people can show up in any environment and know that they'll be accepted. So those are brilliant components of how to make the transition from one market to another, and still be able to effectively work and reach that other seemingly disparate market. Because I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of people who really struggle with that transition. How do I make that leap?
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
indeed they should be. Because some should and
Maybe
some
not
shouldn't.
everyone should, and that's
Yeah.
fine, you know.
Yeah.
But to your point, in the transference of skills, one of the things that I've just kind of decided over the years is why wouldn't I belong here?
Yeah. Oh,
Right? Why
beautiful.
wouldn't I belong here? Just because I don't speak your language? Well, people come to other countries all the time,
Yeah.
right? And they do
Yeah.
great.
That's awesome. And I love the bold stance of that. And just the kind of gentle self-compassion. Why wouldn't I belong here? Because that whole other voice that says you're not one of these, you don't belong, you aren't, you don't fit in, etc. It's like, ugh, enough of that. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't I belong here is a beautiful, beautiful, powerful question. So one of the things that you mentioned was talking about leaders talking about where they want to go and helping them figure out where they want to go. And you say many people introduce themselves where they are rather than where they're going. And
Mhm.
without starting with where you're going, you're unlikely to get there. So talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean in terms of people talk about where they have been versus where they're going?
Yeah. So to me, it's like the major conversation around LinkedIn profiles these days, right? Where people say, well, I'm going to use a very basic analogy, but I'm a bookkeeper.
Mhm.
But what they want to be is a fractional CFO.
Mhm.
Well, you have to say, I'm a fractional CFO that specializes in these things, because otherwise people are going to call you for bookkeeping,
Yes.
right? So where do you want to be? Say that, right? For me, I didn't know I was a producer. I just knew I was doing a lot of things. And so I just started saying, you know what? Why aren't I getting credit for that? Oh, I didn't tell them, right? I'm a producer.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's not my only skill. But the minute I started saying that, that's what I was. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm also, right? Which is where the multi hyphenate came up.
Right.
I'm a coach. Well, okay, but I'm a coach in puppetry, so I must be a coach for puppeteers. Absolutely not,
Right.
right? I'm not against puppeteers. I love puppeteers. I coach them all the time, but I spend all day with them,
Yeah.
right? That's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is what's happening in the hedge fund and what's happening at Google and right? I want to talk with the corporate people who want to have deeper, more meaningful conversations. So I say I'm a multi-hyphenate coach that works with people who are working to tell a new story, because that's what they're doing,
Right.
right?
So talk about how to tell that news story, because a lot of people may struggle with, but I'm not yet, or the imposter syndrome, or just feeling like that's beyond their current reach or something like that.
Mhm.
So, or talk about what you think stops most people from telling that news story.
Mm, there's a lot in that. Um, one thing in terms of what you can do is to simply say, I am this, the thing that you want to be, with
Mhm.
these skills, and list the things that you feel confident about.
Mm.
So I have bookkeeping skills, I have personal skills, I have leadership skills, like note those things, because it's all true. And just because someone hasn't hired you yet doesn't mean that isn't what you're doing all day, right? I was a vice president of a company, but I was doing that job long before they called me the vice president,
Right.
right? So own it.
Right.
You obviously, caveat, I am not telling anybody to lie. Do not say that in a job you're currently in if it's not the title you have. But you can say, I have the skills of A,
Yeah.
and note the title that you're going for, right? Show people where you're going.
Mm.
Um, Another way that you can do that is, again, in the storytelling, right? I started off here, I'm doing this, and I'm going here, right?
Mhm.
Just tell us, because people root for other people. The few people who don't, you don't want to work for or with anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us why you're so passionate about living a new narrative. What is it about it that's so powerful?
Oh God, I love that. So many things. I think that the thing that hits me the most is I'm a storyteller, because I've always told myself a better story,
Mhm.
and the people around me a better story. You know, when things feel dark, there's a crack, right? You find the light. It's that. And so by telling the story of the crack and the light versus all of the darkness that you're surrounded by, hope comes up and possibility comes up. And without that, you will stay where you are. So to me, looking towards the light and finding those moments of possibility is massive. And also, as a person, I'm infinitely curious
Mhm.
and unapologetically curious. So I think, the more curious we get, the more possibilities there are and the more joy there can be in our lives. And you can have the most mundane job,
Mhm.
but if you look for the moments of joy and reprieve, what a different job you have.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I work a lot with people on their why they do what they do. And I think we can live into our why in any situation, surrounding circumstance, relationship, in and throughout all of our life. We're living into our why. It's a question of how consciously, and is it kind of the stand we want to be living into now, because our why is consistent, but I think our stand changes from time to time throughout our life. How we express our why changes. So when you're talking about living into a new narrative, you're
Mhm.
not just talking about saying it, you're also talking about owning it and some internal shifts. What are some of the internal shifts that either you help people with or that they need to do in order to be able to show up?
Yeah. Often we start by talking about the internal shift that you want to make and start giving yourselves external cues. So what are small things? You know, if you're somebody who's like, I just want to come home to a clean house and your house is a mess and your goal is to have a housekeeper, you know, start by making your bed in the morning, right? That's enough to tell you I deserve this. I may
Mhm,
not want to do it, but I deserve it. You
mhm,
know, what are the tiny cues that you can start to give yourself for it to be attainable? And then we start to move into the the storytelling, you know, within ourselves, finding the words that need to shift, looking for the practices that we can do every day to start to make that change. Some people love journaling. Some people would rather burn journals ceremoniously, and that's fine. And also maybe we will. But those those techniques are, you know, person by person.
mhm,
So definitely explore what it is that you need. If it's somebody who really needs to laugh a
mm,
little bit and maybe laugh into the cry, you know, or cry into the laugh, we'll do that together, right? We'll partner in that. And then, you know, when it comes to the end narrative, we
mhm.
check in regularly because often in that journey, we start to explore a different narrative than we thought we were going to,
Right.
right? As there's healing, as there are shifts, mental, physical, whatever they are, we start to see, oh, actually, it was way bigger or a lot simpler,
Mhm. Yeah.
which can be just as tasty, right? It doesn't always have to be massive. It can be that one tiny thing. And you're like, why did I make that so big?
Yes. 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 I tell my clients and anyone who will listen not to create, if they're new, not to create a website until you've served at least 10 clients, because the odds are very good that the conversation you're going to be having with them, which all marketing is a one-to-one conversation, the story you're telling is going to change, because
Mhm.
you don't know who you are and who you want to serve and how you want to serve them until you do it. And
Yeah.
then refine and define it more and clarify it. And then you can tell that new story more
Mm.
effectively. So don't waste time and money on a big expensive website when you're starting out, because it's going to change for sure. The story evolves as we get clearer and clearer on who we are, who we want to serve, and how we want to serve them. And like you said, the story of that we tell about ourselves or where we're going is
Yeah.
often people, I think, especially women, tend to start with a more constrained vision. A lot of what I find is that when you say, what do you want? You know, that I don't know if you guys get this in the States, but we have a commercial for the lottery that says dream bigger, and he has to encourage them, you know, should I want a house? No, no, I want a villa in Tuscany. No, no, I want my own island. He has to encourage her to dream bigger. And I think it's like that for a lot of people. They just haven't given themselves permission to want what they want, so they don't know.
Yes.
So that's a big challenge for how do you live into a narrative if you don't know what the story is you want to tell? So how do you help them find out what is that story for themselves? What is the vision or the dream when they aren't clear?
Yeah. Often we start with the truth of now. What's happening now? Tell me the story. That was very nice. Now tell me the story again.
Okay.
Right? Because there's the story that we think we're supposed to say, and then there's the story when we repeat ourselves, it starts to reveal things. And then we start to talk about, much to your point, what's the story that you want it to be? Let's look at it. Let's look at the actual words, right? House, villa, house, trailer. Neither are better or worse. Which one gets you excited? Which one lights you up?
Yeah.
Why? Right? Barbara Corcoran just bought a pre-made house in California and paid for the land, not the home.
Mhm.
Right? Because that was what mattered to her. So what matters to you? This is not about my judgment, right? And if it's about planting a garden, do you need to move for that? Or can we plant the garden right where you are?
Mhm.
Right? Or do we have to plant that garden so that the next garden you're ready for, right? So we get really minute with the words, right? We really dive into them. But also for those who are visual learners or auditory learners, some people come to me with music.
Mhm.
I love that. Like, show me, let me listen, let's feel it. What comes up for you? Some people come with pictures, that's fine too. Like, I don't care what your learning style is, but with your learning style, we need to start to say yes and no. What fits, what doesn't, and to your point, why?
Mhm. Yes. I love that, and accessing it through different means and ways. And you just have such a lovely kind of juiciness about you in terms of how you engage so viscerally and tactilely and so forth with things. So I think that that's a really nice access for people as well, because it really lets them sink into the feeling of it, the body of it, the all of the components of it, which I think is also very important. And like you said, yeah, language matters, but there is a totality to how we approach that, that you have a nice, really nice framing around, a really nice juiciness is the word that comes to mind.
Thank you. I'll take it. Thank you.
And so what's one last thing? Well, first of all, you have some free ebooks, and how do people access those?
Yeah, so today, I have to thank you because you made me finish. Um, so I'm a deadline person. I just released a new mini course, and it's 5 steps to build an unshakable self-confidence and unlock your full potential. And you can get that just by going to my website, which is jeanmariekeevins.com, and just clicking on the little button to get the course. And
Okay.
we'll send it directly into your inbox.
So 5 steps to build. Say it again. I'm typing it in the chat here.
Yeah, it's 5 easy steps
Uh-huh.
to build unshakable self-confidence and unlock your full potential.
Okay, shakeable self-confidence and unlock your potential. Okay. And I'll put the link for the website in there, but spell it out one more time. And is that the best way for people to get a hold of you or to find out more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, Jean Marie, it's Jeanmarie, Keevins, Keevins.com.
Mhm.
And yeah, and in this little mini course, we talk about understanding self-confidence and identifying our self-limits, cultivating positive self-image,
Mhm.
setting achievable goals, and then embracing our growth and self-care, which is often the biggest piece of it. It's not always doing the work, it's maintaining it and saying, I am going to do this and I'm good with it.
Yes. Yeah.
We really lock it in.
Commitment makes all the difference in the world, and often will trump confidence and even competence, because yeah, in my experience, if we're committed, that gets us a lot further than anything else. All right, what's one last thing you'd like to leave everyone with in terms of telling a better story?
I would say tell the story to your youngest self. Tell your youngest self the story of what you want to be, not the youngest self that everybody else is paying attention to the youngest self. If it's you in your room, in your closet, in your corner, wherever it was that you could get away, even if it was for a moment, tell that child, no matter what was happening in your life, best childhood or worst childhood,
Mhm.
the life that you want to have,
Mm.
because that restarts our hope, right? And it relights our fire.
Mm. Yeah,
So to
beautiful.
give that child permission.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And then the beautiful thing is that child stops digging in his or her heels and rebelling out of fear, because you aren't doing what you love. You aren't doing what lights you up. And they don't like that. They tend to balk. And that puts a kibosh on things, puts the gas and the brake on. So that sounds like a really smart way to get them on board and on side with that vision. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for this kind of simple reminder, but really profound. Our life is based on the stories that we tell about it. We can tell victim stories, or we can tell stories of, like you said, the light and the crack. And that makes all the difference between who we are and how we show up. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. I appreciate it. All right, everybody, please check out Jean Marie's site and go get that micro course for 5 steps to build unshakable self-confidence and unlock your full potential, or something very close to that. And please do have that conversation with your youngest self, even if you think that that's weird and you don't really know and you haven't done anything like that before. Tell that person where you're going, what the dream is, and who you are being now, who you are becoming / being right now, because there's no time like the future to be that. Thanks so much for being here, and have a bodacious week, everybody. Bye for now.